Hey guys, I'm Jonas. Today we're going to be installing this LED light kit on this old Club Car DS. So this week we're starting our new project here. This is a 1995 Club Car DS gas-powered cart that currently does not have an engine in it. We're planning on putting a Predator 420 motor in here with a stage 1 kit. So we're going to be getting started on that here in the next couple of videos. But to start out, I want to go ahead and get the holes cut for our headlight and tail light kit so we can remove this body and get it sent off to paint. We did get this head and tail light kit sent out to us to try out, so I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. One thing that really stood out that I liked about this kit is they went with this new style heat sink on the back of it that's going to help keep this LED quite a bit cooler, which is going to give it a longer service life. It's also got really nice wiring harness. Everything's all waterproof, sealed up good and tight. Colored connectors on there so you know which connector is going to which side of the cart. Included in this kit is your LED head and tail lights along with your wiring harness, as well as some instructions and the templates that you're going to need to cut out the holes for your lights. Now these lights are not a replacement if you have a cart that has your OEM style headlights. So if you have the bigger factory headlights that would have came in your cart or would have been installed by a dealer, this light is a different shape, so it is not going to fit in the same hole that your OEM lights would. To start out installing this kit, we're going to be using the template that was supplied with the kit. You do have to cut this template out, and then you're going to use the lines on the template to match up the body lines on the cart. So it'll work like that for the driver's side, and then you're going to flip it over to use for the passenger side. To hold this template in place, I just like to use a couple of pieces of some masking or painter's tape. Just line it up with the body lines as best you can. Then we'll use a marker to trace out around the inside of the template. Then we're going to repeat that process for the other side. Now to mark out our tail light holes, we've got the template that is also going to be reversible. So for the driver's side, you're going to use the side that does not have any ink on it. I'd like to start out with the body line at the bottom, and then you have the two body lines coming up. When you have this cover on, it's kind of hard to line up across that top body line. Now that we've got our holes marked, we're ready to go ahead and cut them out. There is a couple of different options as far as how to cut these out. You can use a jigsaw and drill a hole in each corner and then use that jigsaw to cut across from hole to hole. You can use a handheld cutter, or I like to use a Dremel tool with a spiral cut bit on it, and then I can just go right around. You do have to be a little bit more careful when using these. They can get away from you. A jigsaw is a little bit easier cutting straight lines with, but if you have a headlight that has more curves to it, it's a lot harder to follow sharp curves with that jigsaw. So there's kind of a give and take to both of them. But on these club cars, a jigsaw really isn't a bad idea, but I'm used to using the Dremel tool, so I don't have any problem doing it this way. Make sure that when you're cutting these, you stay along the inside of the line. You can always go back with a file later and file out to remove more material if you need to. But if you cut your hole too big, then you can have issues with the screws not having enough material to screw into, or being able to see a gap after you've installed your light. Now we can test fit our light. Now using a small drill bit, we can go ahead and pre-drill the 4 holes for mounting our light. Then we're going to repeat this process on the other side. Now that we've got the holes cut out for our lights, we can go ahead and start running our wiring harness. Now to run your wiring harness, it's easiest to start in the middle of the cart where the battery's at and run the rear section of the harness back and then run the front section forward. So on your wiring harness, find where your battery connectors are at, and then the part of the harness that has the switch to turn the lights on and off, that's going to be coming towards the front of the cart, and the other half of the harness will be going to your rear lights. So before we start running this wiring harness, we need to make sure to disconnect our battery. So whether you have a gas-powered cart with just one battery or you have an electric cart with a bunch of batteries, you need to disconnect your main battery negative. Installing this light kit on an electric cart, you have a couple of different options depending on whether you have a 36 volt or a 48 volt cart. If you have a 36 volt cart that is running 6 volt batteries, you can use 2 of your 6 volt batteries that are side by side connected in series. You're going to hook to the positive of one battery and the negative of the other battery, and that combined will give you 12 volts to run this harness. If you have like a 48 volt cart that has 8 volt batteries, you're going to have to get a voltage reducer that is going to connect to 2 8 volt batteries and drop that down to 12 volts. Or if you have a 48 volt cart that has 12 volt batteries, you can just use one of those 12 volt batteries. Starting in the middle of the cart, I have my positive and negative that will be going to my battery terminals, so we're going to leave those right there for now. You do not want to hook those up yet. And then for your wires going to the back of the cart, you have one that's a little bit longer than the other, and this one has the red connector on it. That is going to be going to the passenger side of your cart. The white connector will be going to the driver's side. So we're going to follow the frame rail back and then cut across the back of the cart and then drop the connector down to the passenger side, and same thing on the driver's side. Now to feed our wiring up towards the front of the cart, I like to follow the path that your factory wiring harness runs. So we're going to feed this harness down right next to that and then run it underneath of the cart. Now that we've got the front half of our harness fed up to the front of the cart, we're going to run the red connector to the passenger side, the white connector to the driver's side. Now we can go ahead and drill the hole to install the on-off switch in our dash. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch drill bit. And on the left side of your steering column, most of these club cars have a dimple where the factory would have drilled the light switch hole if this would have had a light installed at the factory. So we're going to drill right where that dimple's at. Now you can loosen the 2 Phillips head screws that are on either side of your dash, and then that allows you to pop this dash out so you can get to the back side of it. Then you can install your light switch with the nut on the back. Then you can reconnect your wires to the back of the light switch. Now that we've got our harness ran, we can go ahead and connect it to our headlights and then install the headlights into the hole. You do need to pay attention when plugging these in that one side of these connectors are flat so that it only plugs in one way. Don't worry about our extra wiring hanging out just yet. We'll tie that up after we've tested to make sure all the lights work. Make sure not to over tighten these screws as you can strip them out. Now you can connect the positive and negative at your battery and test out your lights. Now that we've tested out our lights and know that everything's working properly, we can go back and secure the wiring harness up and out of the way. You definitely want to make sure that, like on the front of the cart and the underneath side of the cart, that wiring harness is up tight up against either where the factory wiring harness is or up against the frame where there's not going to be any moving parts, where you're not going to get into any of your steering linkages, the throttle pedal, the brake pedal, anything like that. You need to make sure that you're clear of all that. And then in the back, make sure that the wiring is up out of the way where it's not going to get tangled up in any parts of the engine. So overall, I'm really happy with this light kit. It seems like build quality is really good on it. The lights themselves are sealed up well, so I don't think we're going to have issues with moisture getting inside of this light and ruining it. It does have an adjustment screw on there so that you can adjust the angle of the light up and down where it's actually pointed. So that is a really nice feature on these. I'll leave a link in the description down below for these lights. You can pick them up on Amazon. I think pricing on them is great for the quality of light that you're getting. So be sure to go check these guys out. That's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.